Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 31st, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Jonah Booker in just a moment. We got a bunch of stuff to get into. Our layout here looks a little different. We have a little something going on with StreamYard today, but we'll be joined by Jonah Booker in just a moment. Jonah and I are going to talk a lot about recruiting on today's show. A lot about recruiting. Is David Sanders Jr. trending the good guy's way? You got, all these alpha charismatic kids in the 2025 class like Devin Sanchez and all these guys, helping recruit David Sanders Jr., the number one offensive tackle in the country, to Ohio State. You have Paris Johnson Jr. What a great ambassador he has been for Ohio State, is for Ohio State. He's helping recruit David Sanders. So I'm curious to get Jonah's take. Does it feel like David Sanders is trending the good guy's way, or am I being a little too optimistic there? And then I want to get Jonah's thoughts on all the the big guys that are coming in for official visits this weekend. Official visit weekend kicked off, and that's awesome. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into. Transfer rules being banned. What impact will that have? We'll get into all that. Before we do that, got to tell you guys again about Omaha Steaks. You guys know I love Omaha Steaks, and you can get a great deal and a good gift for Father's Day. With Father's Day right around the corner, what do you give the man who has everything? Easy. You give him an experience he'll never forget. You give him Omaha Steaks, because a world-class dad deserves a world-class steak. The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to put a smile on the big guy's face this summer with hand-selected gift packages starting at just $89. So go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code Bucknuts at checkout for an additional discount when you shop gourmet gift packages for Father's Day. They have the best steaks, chicken, pork chops, burgers, and more. From dad jokes to skin knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, show him the love with Omaha Steaks. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code Bucknuts at checkout for exclusive savings on gift packages starting at $89. He's guaranteed to love it. omahasteaks.com, use code Bucknuts. There you go. There's my guide. Welcome to the show, Jonah Booker. J-Book, good to see you as always. You're at the beach. You always have a good backdrop. It's even better than usual today. I love it. So we're going to talk mostly recruiting on the show. I want to get your thoughts, first of all, on the latest decision, the latest compromise by the NCAA. They're now banning any transfer rules. And if you had to sit out a year because of a transfer, since the year 2020, they're going to rescind that. You're going to get that year back. What impact do you think this will have, if any, for Ohio State?
For Ohio State, I think it's kind of business as usual, Dave, because the transfer rule has kind of been, off the table for the past year or so. You're still going to have attrition. That's just the way it's always going to be. You're going to have some kids who join the program once they get in there, realize that Ohio State's probably not the best place for them, or they're going to find other opportunities to get on the field early. Ohio State's also going to be extremely aggressive with the transfer portal, which will help them on the back end, because they're going to be able to go out, get some kids that, they can plug and play right now. So I do think that the transfer rule is going to help Ohio State when it comes to recruiting nationally. One thing that, Mike is asking, does that abolish the SEC rule? Because you know how the SEC has their own in-conference rules where you can't transfer within the SEC, or you have to sit out. So that was helping like programs like Ohio State, Oregon, that were outside of the SEC that were actually championship contenders. So for the transfer rule overall, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think that some of these kids, you're probably going to be seeing kids with, 4th, 5th, 6 years again, because keep in mind, we're starting to weed out the COVID year kids, that a lot of these kids were getting their 6 years and stuff. Now that some of these kids are going to get a year of eligibility back, you're probably going to see that extended a little bit longer for these, 5th and 6th year guys who have otherwise been off on their work career or NFL if they were still eligible.
Hi, Mrs. Sanchez, and thank you for your recruiting efforts. I gave your son a shout out. Give your whole family a shout out for that's awesome. And for those that are listening to the show and can't see this, Mrs. Sanchez saying the Sanders are amazing people. We had the pleasure of sitting with them in Nashville. That's awesome. So
the Sanchez family doing some big boy recruiting in Tennessee, Dave.
I love it, man. So let's just get to it then. David Sanders, is he trending Ohio State's way? Am I crazy to think that?
I think he is. I think he's going to be a Buckeye in the end. You look at the recruits; they're hanging around David Sanders. Almost every single picture that you see, Tavian St. Clair is right there with David Sanders. He's not letting him out of his sight. And obviously, the Sanchez's are doing a tremendous job helping to recruit him. And as you mentioned, Dave, too, Monica Daniels is doing a great job. Paris Johnson Jr. Is doing an excellent job helping to recruit David Sanders here, because he mentioned in one of the recent recruiting articles that Paris Johnson has been a really big impact on him. With Ohio State getting the last official visit, Dave, it is critical for Justin Fry to push this one in. I mean, you can have the recruiting in NIL aspect. That's going to be one part of it, because they will make sure that they take care of the number one tackle in the country. They will have a very solid offer on the table. But more importantly, Ohio State is preaching the culture to him. They're preaching the opportunities off the field with him, life after football, the connections that's going to be available to him in Columbus. That's a very short flight from Charlotte to Columbus for his family. Getting him back up there for that last official visit, that's going to be critical for the Buckeyes to be able to punch this one in. I mean, right now the table's set for Justin Fry. Just go ahead and put that meat out there for the big fella man and let him eat. And if so, then that's going to be a Buckeye in the end. And then you start talking about offensive line recruiting, Dave. Could we be on the boom watch this weekend? Because one guy that a lot of people think Ohio State has a very good shot at is the offensive lineman that's coming in. Let me get his name. 1 second here, Dave.
Henry.
Yep, Henry. That's who I'm talking about.
Fuku.
For Henry Fuku, they're recruiting him as a guard. I think there's a very good chance that Ohio State's going to get him coming up from Fort Worth, Texas. He's someone that you look at and you're like, this is a kid that's a little raw, but has tremendous upside. You get him and you get a couple other guys, because I know they got Kaden Strahorn coming in from IMG Academy on an official visit this weekend. I don't know where Ohio State stands with that kid, but I think Henry Fuku is a kid that could potentially pull the trigger this weekend.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's David Sanders. Man, and David Sanders seems like he's like a Paris Johnson Jr. type of kid, where number one offensive tackle in the country and also 5-star young man. You know what I mean? It just seems to fit. And you're right. And for those who don't know, Paris's mom and his stepdad now live in Columbus. They live in Columbus. So Monica's right there. And I love how big of an Ohio State fan she still is. You know, all the parents of players, they still want Ohio State to do well, but some, kind of drift off a little bit, and some stay like rabid fans. Monica is the latter, and I absolutely love it. She's still a rabid fan, and what a great ambassador she is for the program.
See, that's the great thing about Ohio State, Dave. It's the family atmosphere and the culture. Paris, Monica Daniels could easily be off like, I'm not getting into the weeds with recruiting, but no, she's right there because of the way Ohio State took care of her son. And you look at him, Paris right now, and he's switching over to the left side. He's going to be, potential all pro tackle at the next level. But all of that started with the Buckeyes in the way that the family atmosphere and the foundation was built. You look at the families now that are out there recruiting, Dave. That's what it's all about. So when you start seeing that foundation laid and you have the parents out there vouching to other parents, that goes a long way, because the kid can have in his mind, I love this place and I want to go to this place. But it's incredibly important for your family to buy in as well. It's incredibly important for your family to feel comfortable for a program to take their kid, turn them into a son, and turn them into a man within those next 3 to 4 to 5 years. You're entrusting that those coaches are going to do that. So when you have a parent that is out there vouching to say, hey, this is the way it is at Ohio State. This is how they took care of my son. These are the things that they were able to do with mental health. to make sure that not only is he strong on the field, off the field, but his mental health is highly recognized, because you see what's going on up at Penn State with James Franklin, Dave. I mean, they just had to pay out $5 million to a doctor who was slamming James Franklin, saying that he wasn't really taking mental health serious for some of those kids that were struggling. So it's vital that as a parent, you're looking at all the things off the field as well as on the field, and having Mrs. Sanchez and Monica Daniels, those type of parents vouching for Ohio State, that carries a lot of weight when you're sitting down in the living room talking to these families.
All right. I do want to get to one thing, because I mentioned on Monday when Dan and I did the show, the plan was we were supposed to get assistant coaches this week. They're like, and you guys are actually going to like this. I think you guys are going to like this trade-off. They're so knee-deep in recruiting, they're going to push that back. We don't know when. We usually get them last week of May. They're so knee-deep in recruiting that Jerry Emig was not able to do that this week. So there you go. I'm glad that you asked that. And so no assistant coach interviews this week. Hopefully next week, maybe the week after that. We don't know, because they are full bore on recruiting. So good trade-off. I would love to sit down with all the coaches, but if it means they're just going to knock out recruiting, I guess I'll take that trade-off.
It's a huge recruiting weekend, Dave. I mean, then you got the camps coming up right now. I know Ryan Day had recently went on a podcast, said they want to get about 95% of their official visits done in June. That way, once the season starts, because if kids are taking official visits during the season, they don't get a lot of time with the players and the coaches like you do right now. So I think it's critical for those guys to hit a home run, because the calendar's been moved up. Everybody is pretty much having their official visits in June. You know what, Dave? Get those down south kids into Columbus in June, and they get up there when the weather's perfect right now. And you guys got some great weather, and they get up there thinking it's like, oh man, Columbus weather's nice.
Oh yeah, so it's like San Diego, like throughout the entire year. Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's cold. It's cold out here right now, Dave. I mean, I can go outside with a beanie, man. It's 68. It's consistent, 68. But man, when that wind starts blowing right about now, you got that June gloom. I could put a beanie and a hoodie on and be comfortable sitting on the beach.
Picture perfect today in the capital city of Ohio. A little chilly right now in the morning. It's 60 degrees. We're going to have a high temperature of 76, sunny. See? Tomorrow, it's going to get up to 80, maybe a little hotter than I'd like. I like when it stays in the 70s, but again, no rain or anything. Mostly sunny, 80 degrees on Saturday. So, and then Sunday, pretty good.
I will say this about for the Buckeyes: they're going to be barbecuing for these kids, Dave. Whatever you do, do not trot out that garbage type of meal that Michigan did last year with the dry mac and cheese, the beanie weenies, the animal crackers, the
microwave chicken. Like the microwave chicken strips or something.
Yeah, get them boys some prime rib or some brisket or something, and really make it happen. Just do not trot out those boiled hot dogs like Jim Harbaugh in Michigan was doing last year on their big recruiting visits. That's probably why they can't recruit well. Kids go up there and was like, man, boiled hot dogs for dinner.
I mean, of that stuff, the hot dogs probably look the best. I mean, I like a nice, chicken tender, but not if it looked like that was like something like from like junior high, like cafeteria meals or something like that. Like looks reheated 5 times, microwave, like ugh,
right?
Disgusting. Okay, let's stop talking about cuisine at Michigan. Okay, let's move on here. We've already talked about some of these guys. All right, so let's start with. These guys are all coming in on official visits this weekend. Justin Hill, defensive end. Winton Woods. Winton Woods has been good to Ohio State. Number 7 edge in the country. Number 60 overall in the country. J-Book, your vibe on Justin Hill. Will he be a Buckeye?
This is a tough one, Dave, because this is one where Justin Hill doesn't necessarily view himself as a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end. He views himself kind of an off-ball hybrid type of linebacker, which – is the jack position. That's essentially the jack position in Ohio State's defense. So they have to be able to show Justin Hill that they're actually going to implement it. This goes back to what you and I have talked about numerous times, that the jack position and being creative on defense, that's going to be contingent on Larry Johnson. How cooperative is he going to be with Jim Knowles, who wants to be able to implement that? You look at the way they've been recruiting him. Larry Johnson just recently got involved with that recruitment with Justin Hill going down there after word got out that Alabama was sending their defensive end coach there because Alabama's looking at him more as the hybrid type of guy. So you look at Alabama, you look at Oregon, they're pitching that he's not a fit into Ohio State's defense because they've never actually utilized the jack position. They tried it in the first year, Jim Knowles with Sawyer, and it was a hot mess, and they really, trended away from it. But you look at Oregon, Oregon's also pitching him as a Mike linebacker, which is silly to me because I don't think Justin Hill is a Mike linebacker. He's a guy that can really bend that arc, get after the quarterback, play in some space. So I think what Alabama's doing is smart. The Buckeyes have to be able to show him that they will utilize him, but he is an absolute beast. You got to be able to put the fence around Ohio, especially when it comes to Justin Hill, Trey Nutt, Bo Jackson. Those are guys that top of the line SEC schools are going after. You got to try to find a way to keep those kids home.
Have to. Especially Winton Woods kid. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's go. I know Cincinnati at times has not been, the quote unquote lock that other parts of the state have been, but come on. Winton Woods, let's go. All right. Bo Jackson, Cleveland, number 3 running back in the country, number 85 overall player in the country, but number 3 running back in the country. You get the number 3 running back in the country. He's a Buckeye. He's in the Buckeye State. He's got to be a Buckeye. But listen to Bill Kurelic, man. I don't know. It's sketchy. What's your vibe here?
That one's a little sketchy because I think Georgia right there is pulling out all the punches. Venturing over to the Georgia side, seeing what they had to say about Bo Jackson after his visit, they're making him an absolute priority at running back position to the tune of they probably are looking to bring in 3 running backs at Georgia this cycle as well. They have about 4 to 5 guys on their board that they feel really good that they can land. However, they're making Bo Jackson such a priority that no one is allowed to really make a decision on their board until they hear what Bo Jackson wants to do. So that kind of tells you how they feel about the kid. So the Buckeyes are definitely, they have their hands full here. It can go either way. Coach Loughlin's going to have to, really hit it out the park because you venture over to the Georgia board and some of the comments that he's made, that he had his whole family down there, said that the visit has blown his mind. So they have a lot of work to do here, and by no means is this a slam dunk. But yeah, you have to try to keep him home if you can keep him home because you're in an absolute dogfight for Jordan Davison, the other running back out of California. So the Buckeyes, a lot of fans are thinking like, oh, Jordan Davison is a lot. But you're in a battle with Oregon for him. That can go either way. I know the kid out of Philadelphia, they have that decommitted from Kentucky. The Buckeyes really like him, and he's a really good back. They actually have the one of Alabama's commitments up on campus right now for an official visit in Anthony Rogers. That's probably more of a long shot trying to flip Montgomery, Alabama running back who's committed to Bama. If they do, then holy moly. But yeah, Bo Jackson, start with your homegrown talent first, land him, and then at that point, go ahead and spread your wings and go nationally and try to get your next second and third running back. But it all starts with Bo. If you can get him, then all the other dominoes will fall in place.
Yep. Got to keep him at the one from Ohio at home, especially ranked as high as he is. Then the guy ranked as the number 4 running back in the country, right behind Bo Jackson, is actually finishing up his visit today. And that is Anthony Rogers, committed to Bama. As I said, number 4 running back in the country, number 118 overall player in the country, according to 24/7 Sports.
And this is the unofficial.
Yeah, unofficial, right? Because you can't start an official visit till today, right? I think today was the first day you can start. So he's committed to Bama. But he's obviously taking visits. What's your vibe here?
Anthony Rogers has a phenomenal tape, but he's smaller in stature. You're talking about a 5'8", 185 running back. So I kind of look at him as if you're going to bring in 2 other backs, he could be that kind of wild card type of running back, but he's electric. Make no mistake about it. He's an IMG kid. The word that he's been telling Bill Kurelic is if this unofficial visit with the Buckeyes go really well, like he's expecting, then he's going to come back for an official visit. So that right there is a positive. So hopefully you can get him back for another official visit and hit it out the park there. But yeah, I look at him, at 5'8", 185. He looks like someone who could be a nice complimentary back to like Bo Jackson or Jordan Davison.
All right. And you already mentioned Henry Fuku. He seems vastly underrated, doesn't he? He doesn't even have a national ranking but he's the number 19 interior offensive lineman in the country, number 47 overall player in the state of Texas. I love that after all these Texas kids. 6'4", 295, plays soccer. I mean, he's got to be that's one of those that he's going to definitely be like a high 4-star in the end, don't you think?
The thing about him that you can't teach is that kid has really good footwork. He's a big boy that plays soccer. So whenever you have someone that big who's swift on their feet and agile like that, that's something that you can't teach. Now you start to try to develop this kid's physicality. You get him stronger in the weight room. You really start to hone in on his skills. But if you can bring in a kid who naturally has really good feet, because Henry is a guy that can also potentially be a swing tackle, get him in the fold and you really start to build that offensive line because, I think they have a couple more offensive linemen. And the thing is, Dave, I think there was a lot of talk about if they were going to take 4, if they're going to take 5 offensive linemen. The way that they've been throwing offers out there nationally now, it leads you to believe that they're probably going to take 5 offensive linemen. So Justin Fry is going to have his hands full. I think he has them in good position to really fill this class up. But I think go ahead and lock down Henry. Get a guy who you think has tremendous upside, really good feet, and then you work on his development. You work on his strength once you get him in the building.
Yeah, I think he'd be a really, really, really good get. And then they have, and I know initially some fans were like, oh, they're bringing in 2 3-star offensive linemen. Way to go, Fry. But I don't think Fuku, as you just articulated, is your typical 3-star. I think that his ranking, his offer list doesn't certainly reflect a 3-star. The other 3-star they're bringing in, J-Book, Kaden Strahorn. He's at IMG, similar size as Henry. He's 6'3", 295, a little shorter. Number 30 interior offensive lineman in the country, ranked as doesn't have a national ranking. Number 65 player in the state of Florida. Your thought? I don't know much about him. Do you know much about Kaden Strahorn, and what's your vibe here?
He's a Michigan kid, originally from Detroit. I don't know how high the Buckeyes have him on their board, especially I don't know if he wanted to commit today, if that offer would be committable. I think with him being a Michigan kid, he has Michigan in his top 5. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this kid land up in Michigan being recruited by Grant Newsome up there. So he went there from Detroit, went down to IMG. He's not as highly regarded as some of the other guys. You look at the composite, he's ranked 431 nationally. But they do like him. But I don't know if his offer is committable right now. But in the end, I probably see this kid heading back home to Michigan or Michigan State, somewhere like that.
3 more, we'll get you out of here. All right, another guy coming in on an official visit. Outstanding linebacker, another guy from Texas. Love this. Riley Pettijohn, number 5 linebacker in the country. Number 58 overall player in the country. This kid's a stud. Can James Laurinaitis get it done with Riley Pettijohn?
That's going to be a very tough pull to get him out of there. I mean, right now he's crystal ball to Texas. TJ Alford, he's been doing a heck of a job trying to recruit this kid on social media. I know Eli Lee, commitment Ohio State linebacker out of Akron. He's coming down this weekend to try to help recruit Riley Pettijohn. This one, Dave, I probably would lean towards this kid staying in the state of Texas. If James Laurinaitis is able to pull him out, man, that right there would be an absolute home run for the Buckeyes at the linebacker position. But as of now, I probably think this kid's going to stay in state with probably the Texas Longhorns.
So some reverse psychology there. Buckeyes have no chance, right? Reverse psychology. They're getting him on campus for an official. They got a chance. All right. Last 2 guys, I'll just group these guys together. I think one thing we're never going to – well, I guess we're never going to worry about DB recruiting with Tim Walton either. But since Brian Hartline's been here, we don't need to worry about wide receiver recruiting at all. A couple of studs coming in, to say the least, for officials. DeCorian Moore, number 1 wide receiver in the country, number 5 overall player in the country. And then Vernell Brown Jr., number 7 wideout, number 38 overall. Your vibe on those two young men, JB?
Yeah, these are two heavy hitters right now. I'll probably, you could look at DeCorian Moore and say Ohio State's in a three-way battle there. Our longtime friend Steve Wilfong had actually said last week that some of his sources were telling him that he thought that Texas was running third behind the Buckeyes and Oregon there. If that's true, and DeCorian Moore, keep in mind, was just on campus, 3 weeks ago with his mom, and he's right back for an official visit. So you look at him, and the thing about it is, some people says it's better to have that last official visit. This is going to be his first official visit. I think the one thing that really hit home with him and his mother was the way that Ryan Day takes mental health serious. That was some of the comments from his mom saying that was very impressive, the way that Ohio State takes mental health of their student athletes extremely serious. So, it's Brian Hartline Day. You look at him and you say, hey, you have more than a puncher's chance with DeCorian Moore, especially when you've had him on campus this many times. Vernell Brown, there's been some smoke. Is he trending to Florida? Is he trending where he's a legacy from Florida? Is he trending to Miami? He's an Orlando kid. I think that Jamie French is going to go to Texas. So you're looking at opening up the door. Who's going to be the first big heavy hitter at wide receiver to pull the trigger? If DeCorian Moore decides to be a Buckeye, will Vernell Brown go to one of the Florida schools or vice versa? So there's a lot of dominoes in play when it comes to wide receiver. I think these guys are all watching to see what happens with each other. He's still crystal ball 100% to the Buckeyes, Dave. Nobody's come up off that crystal ball that says, hey, I'm pegging him to the Florida schools. So knock it out the park with him. You got to definitely sell the family here with Vernell Brown. Convince them that coming up north is going to be the way to go. Now, you also keep in mind you got Dalen McClutchin, who's going to be making an official visit. Texas wide receiver, ranked 23rd. He's kind of like one of those Jackson Smith and Jigga type of guys, Dave. Probably about the same size coming out of Texas. Rankings initially similar because you remember JSN wasn't ranked incredibly high early on. Brian Hartline was in on him early, and then you started to see that ascend where his rankings started to, get recognized with his play on the field. He started to kill it. I kind of see Dalen McClutchin as one of those type of guys. So the Buckeyes, they still have a lot of options on the board right now. And I think French is going to go to Florida. Khalid Lockwood is probably French is going to go to Texas. Khalid Lockwood is going to probably go to Texas as well. But they still have a whole variety of options that they're looking at that they have a legitimate shot at landing.
All right, I'll let you get back to this beautiful beach I see in the background. Really appreciate you joining me as always on a Friday, especially from the beach. What a great background.
Hey, man. I can't miss the Friday show, Dave.
I love it, man. I love it. And I didn't like force you to like take over the show like last week. You did a great job, by the way. You did a fantastic job. For those that weren't with us last week, my internet was not working. So J-Book just took the show over and knocked it out. My neighbor Phil said, hey, I haven't even told you this yet, JB. My neighbor Phil said, hey, they don't even need you anymore. Jonah did a great job. And I'm like, thanks, Phil. Thanks, Phil. Phil's a big Buckeye fan and avid listener of the show. So I even have my neighbors coming out and saying, they don't even need you anymore. That Jonah can just do it. So there you go.
I appreciate it, Dave. And, we got each other's back. We've been doing this together for years, Dave. And, hey, how about this? Before we get out of here, yesterday, the anniversary of Coach Tress being forced out. Now, we're talking about transfer rules are unlimited. Kids are getting, piece of the pie. How silly does all of that look, especially with that Sports Illustrated cover?
So ridiculous. And it wasn't even that long ago. Now, I have pointed this out. And I love Jim Tressel. He's like, I think I love him more than Urban, which is a high bar. And even Coach Day. Now, Coach Day needs to win a national championship to be mentioned with the guys that have won a national championship. I love Tressel, but it kind of felt like it was starting to tail off toward that 2010 season. They were really good. I shouldn't say they're starting to tail. They were 12-1 in 2010. Anyway, the recruiting was starting to tail off a little bit though. And without that, we don't get Urban.
Yeah.
And that just and then Urban just raised the level. So it's like, I feel bad for Tressel, what happened, but then we don't get Urban.
Because you look back and Jim Bowman was probably on his last leg as an offensive line coach. And then who's the guy that they had a video coordinator as a quarterback coach?
Nick Siciliano.
Nick Siciliano was, he had no business being Terrell Pryor's quarterback coach at the time. But I hate the way that they did Jim Tressel. Like, I felt like he should have been able to go out on his own. And you look back on it, how silly it was. Like, you remember, Dave, like they had the cameras, the media trucks camped outside the Woody.
Yes.
They were going to Terrell Pryor's mom, asking him about why does he have one of those little Nissan cars that he was driving around and stuff.
Charger. I think it was a Dodge Charger.
He had a Charger, and then he had like the little two-door Nissan as well. Now you got kids driving around in Lamborghini. I mean, Jamie French talking about, hey, I want a Lamborghini deal. You got Shedeur Sanders riding around in a Maybach, and you got Terrell Pryor's little two-door Nissan that they were driving an absolute fit over. But yeah, I was just thinking about that yesterday. It's like, man, how much times have changed. Like, give us those wins back.
Yes, give us those wins back. And the making the Tat 5 sit out there like they were like criminals or something. The whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. And it wasn't even that long ago. All right, great stuff. I didn't mean to keep you this long.
That's all right, man.
Get back to the beach and your beautiful family. Appreciate you, JB. And thanks to all the listeners out there. We appreciate you guys very much. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend.